What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Barcata Podcast. We're here with a special friend, Kevin O'Donnell, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All the way from Vermont.
All the way from Vermont. When we've been talking about this visit for a very long time, right? About you coming into town, helping with getting the co-op started and everything.
About a year now.
Yeah. And it just dawned on me the other day. I'm like, hey, he's in town. Like, I think he's got a cool story. We got to get him on the podcast while he's here in town. So thank you for making time out of your day. I know when you're on these like short little trips, it's kind of hard to squeeze a lot of different things in, so.
It is, but it's, the important piece is it's helpful in a lot of different ways. You learn a little bit about the community and the culture when you go to these towns, and because they're all different. Mm-hmm. And Oshkosh is a beautiful town. It really is.
Yeah.
I timed it right. I didn't come in January, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's cold in January.
Yeah. But it come from Vermont. It's cold there too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, why don't you share a little bit about what you do over at Seven Roots and the co-op that you're involved with?
So, I'll take it back a little bit. I've been in the hospitality food business for over 50 years. And like a lot of people, you just end up and you just work it. And so I was teaching at a culinary school, and a friend of mine needed some help at a co-op in Vermont, in Montpelier, called Hunger Mountain Co-op. And he asked me if I would come over and look at it and help him with it. So I did. And next thing I know it, I'm working there.
Yeah.
And I've been there for 10 years now. But a bunch of people that I've met, we formed a little company called Seven Roots, and it's and the Seven Roots comes from the seven rooted principles of co-ops. And we actually design, help build, and co-ops. And my specialty is prepared foods and operations. And so basically what we do is we design all the food programming for a prepared foods department or operationally. And so, and it's a little bit more involved than what a lot of people think it is.
Yeah. We've been talking now for well over a year and a half, right? Like, we were getting that process going right away.
Yeah, and it's amazing because every community, what's really unique about a co-op, you build the co-op around the community's needs and niches, and the diversity in the community, and so you really gotta understand the community, and it was great to have a group of community volunteers who were willing to meet on a weekly basis for over a year to help really build this food programming piece. Because Midwestern culture communities is much different than East Coast communities.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so it's been a lot of fun. I consider you and Adam and John friends, because we've been doing this for a year. It's been a lot of work, and Liz too.
Yeah.
So,
no, like I've said, in our conversation over lunch, like it's great to see all the stuff coming together and working with people, in the community with, the shared focus and bringing this co-op, to life and everything, It's kind of cool we're really going to start taking off running here. We are running. We're getting to that finish line right now, right?
Yeah, I walked through the building yesterday. They say the building's going to be complete in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you're going to open in 6. And you're at the staffing point now. We're basically putting the finishing touches on menus, and what the particular what the grab-and-go unit's going to look like with the food in it. We're planning out, the turkey sandwiches are going here. You get down to that nuts and bolts now. It's the really fun part. And you got a lot of balls in the air right now. But, in 6 weeks, it's open, it's functioning. It's going to add a whole new diversity to the community. And when you think about the 8 years and all the people in this community that came together to do it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
it really is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, and the award, you just recently got an award for the, what was it, the best new co-op or up and coming. The conference, you got an award for like the best startup.
Yeah.
How it was handled and the way the process that you did it, which is pretty amazing. And I for me, I was only a small part of it. But it's everybody here in the community.
Yeah. No, that's the great thing, is that there's so many people from different areas in life that are just pitching in and offering their time and their knowledge as to whatever they can do to help it grow.
Yeah, and in this, a new addition to the community. 10 years from now, people will probably say, how did we ever exist without a co-op? It's my co-op started in a garage as a buyer club in 1978. And here we are, 2021. And we do $25 million in sales.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the second largest for-profit business in the town.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So government is the first. An big insurance company is actually the first for-profit, and we're the second for-profit.
Gotcha. Nice.
So,
yeah.
And and a lot of people would say that, it's a better community because we have a co-op in it.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So back to your Seven Roots group. You call it group, company, business?
Group. No, we're actually a co-op.
Co-op? Okay.
Yeah, we're actually a worker co-op.
Yeah. When we were talking a little bit before, you were talking about how people are pretty much spread like throughout the country, right? Mm-hmm. Like what areas are they in again?
So our designer works she lives in Grass Valley, California.
Okay.
Her husband is my equivalent, the operations manager at Briar Patch Co-op.
Oh, nice.
Our governance person who takes care of all board governance and everything, he lives in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Nice.
They call it TOSA for short.
TOSA.
Right?
Yeah.
TOSA for short. Okay.
Yeah, if you say TOSA in Wisconsin, everyone will know what you're talking about.
Okay. And then our branding and marketing person lives in East Aurora, New York.
Yeah.
Which is outside of Buffalo, for those people who don't know that.
Yeah.
And then I live in Montpelier, Vermont. And so what we've learned over time is that we as a company, for people, don't need bricks and mortar.
Sure.
But the technology has helped us do that.
Oh, yeah. And that's, it's been more evident in the last couple of years and that, there are people and businesses that have been doing things virtually, but it's just given it its whole new definition, right?
Yeah, totally. And that was the great thing about, actually coming here and meeting everybody in person, because we've been virtually meeting for a year.
Yeah, that was a great handshake, man.
Yeah. And it was a great start, and but seeing everybody in real life, real time, just it's a reality piece. And so we actually try at least once a year to have a retreat where we all get together.
Sure.
And we've been we didn't do it this year so far, but we normally do it at a conference called Up and Coming, which will be held in Madison in March.
Yeah.
Next year.
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Well, you'll be back in the area again, right?
Totally. And, I would highly recommend that, you should come up to it, because you can meet a lot of other, co-op people, and it's a great little event.
Yeah. Even during lunch, we were just talking about just a different translation and things, even though we're here at a restaurant, the talk is a little bit different, but it's a lot of it that has the same principles and core values, right? At a grocery store or co-op.
Yeah, exactly. You're dealing with food, right? And one of the things we brought up is just we have a different vernacular in the cooperative grocery store business than we do in a restaurant, but it's all the same drivers.
Yeah.
It's customer count, average check, basket size, covers. that's what makes your business. And the same thing in a grocery store, you have the same drivers.
Yeah.
And systems, you have, and the great thing about a co-op is they really strive to have these community values that some, chain grocery stores don't have.
Yeah.
You basically want to, your priority is to buy local. Your priority is to have, local vendors.
Yeah.
And because it's a community. I mean, and the unique thing about a co-op that most people really don't understand is that it's owned by its members. And here's a tidbit for you. I'm a member of the Oshkosh Co-op.
Oh yeah.
So I feel very strongly that when I do work for co-ops, I join the co-op.
You're definitely very much a part of it.
Yeah. But that's the piece that, people, it's their co-op. It's your store. You have a voice now. And, you don't have a voice in, the chain grocery stores. But you have one here, and it's great to participate in that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you guys form again? Like the company?
So three of us worked together for another company called Colluminate, which before Colluminate it was actually called CDS.
Okay.
So we all worked together, and the Colluminate started to move out of operations and wanted to move more towards governance. Okay. And Nicole, who does the design, and myself, who does operations, I'm saying, where does that leave us? And so they were moving in that direction, but Nicole decided to leave and do design on her own.
Yep.
And then, I contacted her and said, hey, Nicole, what about me? So she said, oh, Kevin, I'd love to have you work with us. And then the next thing, we had Heather, who's our marketing person, say, hey, we really need a marketing person. So Heather said, great. And then Joel Kapishke, who lives in Tosa, he was looking to expand a little bit too. And so we needed a governance person because co-ops have governing boards and they need coaching. And so he jumped on, and it took us about a year and a half, 2 years to really kind of get, to gel. I never thought doing a startup would be so hard.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
It's hard, and
you guys had your challenges too. With just being not all in the same location at once, right? So
right.
But I think you guys got the hang of it now, right?
We do. we have the hang of it. It's one of those things now where our next challenge is, okay, we have a lot of work on our plate. How do we manage all that work now with 4 people? Yeah.
So would you be looking at expanding or adding maybe another person or two?
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, we are. Because right now, we all kind of do, I do prepared foods and operations, but, I do the banking.
Sure.
I do that kind of, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then, Heather acts as the general manager, so she's negotiating, with, credit cards and things like that.
Yeah,
and,
all the fun stuff.
We're all doing this we split up the administrative piece, and you just say, this isn't what I really signed on for, but it's part of the business, right?
Yeah.
So,
how about the name? Can you tell us a little bit about the name?
Yeah. So, in the co-op world, they have 7 principles. It's democratic, it's community-owned, and you're going to ask me to answer all 7. I'm sure I can't, but they're very specific. The cooperative principles are very specific. So Nicole, who is our designer, she's also Native American.
Okay.
And so she's very spiritual when it comes to these things, and she said, we should be rooted in something in the cooperative principles.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then so she came up with that name 7 Roots.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And we have to explain it, but once we explain it, everybody gets it.
And when you're specifically working, with co-ops and stuff, But do you guys branch out and work with others,
Yeah, we'll do.
or do any like consulting for other types of businesses, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll do, because of my food background, I'll do restaurants and
Okay.
hotels. And we also do natural food stores, too. They don't necessarily have to be co-ops.
Sure.
But
Yep.
we'll design natural food stores as well. We're
Very cool.
actually doing one in Delaware
Okay.
called Harvest Market.
Yep.
We're working with them. They're not a co-op, but so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So if you ever need some suggestions or some help, we'll give you a holler.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. Like I told you, my whole life I've been in this business. So
Yeah.
and it's not very hard to pivot and think about what it is in a restaurant, or pivot and what it is in a hotel.
Yeah.
Because one of the most important pieces of all of this is customer service.
Yeah. Sure.
It's totally customer service.
Yeah.
And if you can't get that right, it's hard to be successful, right?
Oh, for sure. And that's one of the big things that we strive for here, trying to re-emulate that, Filipino like hospitality when our guests, servers, bartenders, even everyone, kitchen, just putting their love into everything. We have this running joke whenever we make something that, say a ticket comes up, Pancit Sotanghon, with extra feelings, you gotta get the extra feels in there, so.
That's great, and it shows. I mean, I had a dish today that, man, it had a lot of love to it. So it was great. And
Good.
The staff is great here. The ambiance is phenomenal. You could find this restaurant could be open in any major city and be really successful.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Where should we head next?
Well, I'll bet you Milwaukee could use this.
Sure. Milwaukee. We've had a lot of people asking us to be down in Madison.
Okay. Oh, Madison would be great.
Yeah.
But with that comes challenges,
For sure.
when you have a second location. So.
Yep. And, now is it's not super ideal, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Sometimes, I always tell people sometimes you just have to jump off that cliff
Yeah,
to
for
find
sure.
out.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So,
Definitely.
yeah.
So what other things do you like to do when you're not in the co-op world? You were sharing a couple of things with me of some snapshots you took.
So I love to, I'm an amateur photographer where I find that it's, and I combine my photography typically with my other passion of bicycling.
Nice.
So I have a rig I've set up where I can ride my bike, and my camera is just fit to my chest.
Okay.
And so I can literally just stop, turn the camera, and just hold it up and snap a picture.
That's perfect, man. Yeah.
My passion when it comes to photography is old barns,
Okay.
because I think that's a vanishing landscape.
Are there a lot out by you?
There are a lot out by me. It's not surprising that Vermont is an agricultural state.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of old wooden barns, and we have a state capital not as gracious as Madison and beautiful and big, but on the top of our state capital, there's the Roman goddess of agriculture sits on that,
Very
and
cool.
her name is Ceres.
Okay.
And so, because of that, it's an agricultural economic driver for us, and all these dirt roads. 60% of the roads in Vermont are still dirt.
Okay.
So you ride on these dirt roads, and in the backwoods there'll be this 1865 barn that's bigger than an office building.
That's nuts. Yeah.
And because they're so big, they're hard to maintain. And with the winners, as they get older and they don't maintain them, they fall down.
Yeah.
So I go around and photograph them so that I have them, and at some point I probably will do a book. But
Yeah, you should.
yeah,
No, the pictures that you showed me look pretty nice, man.
well, thank you. It's,
Yeah.
a lot of it's just equipment, right? So I like to think I have a little bit of an eye, but I'm still I still consider myself an amateur, and I just do it for fun.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Speaking of barns, we were just talking before. I filmed a wedding last Saturday with Never Films. Shout out to Never Films. And it's this, they refurbished this barn, right? Repurposed it. And, and had the stairs and stuff that normally wouldn't be there. But they made it into, multi-levels. And this guy just gutted it out and turned it into like a rental. So like it's a nice place for people to stay if they just wanted to, vacation or just get away a little bit. And there's a nice little man-made pond with some nice quarry stone and all that kind of stuff. And it was super hot, but it was nice and cool and air conditioning there. So like the family or like the videographers or photographers that knew that it was open, we would pop in every once in a while and cool off and then go back out and capture more stuff. So
well, but that's that happens a lot in Vermont too, because everybody there's a big clientele that wants to come to Vermont and get married, and because it's it's wide open spaces, it's beautiful, it's green, but it's really helpful when people repurpose facilities like that
for sure
to redo something, because otherwise they get torn down, they get and it's beautiful, and if you can maintain some of the integrity, it doesn't have to be all historical.
No.
But it's a great way to use it and repurpose it. Yeah.
Have you been finding some of those being reused for different things like that?
Absolutely. There's a barn in Richmond, Vermont called the Monitor Barn. Mm-hmm. And it has a sister barn that's right next door that's still a functioning barn, but they're twins.
Okay.
And the one barn that they use for weddings and meetings and functions was totally restored.
Yeah.
And so you can see it side by side. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And one's still functioning, and you can see that they were built so well that they can still function as a barn.
Yeah. If you could see some of the dates and when these things went up, they'd be like, "Wow, really?"
Yeah. And the size of them. To think that people built these barns without the cranes and the excavators and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm just in awe when I stop in front of them. And for me there's more of a spiritual thing too, where I stand in front of that, and it's just there's a spirit there that is just sucks me in all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's great fun, and I'm fortunate to live. As a matter of fact, somebody told me that if I had time, I should ride out past north of the river.
Okay.
And it's all like farm country.
Yeah.
And they said they probably some stone barns out there because of the German population around here.
Yeah.
So if I have the time, maybe not this time, but maybe next time I come, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to scout out some locations for you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, the Barn Stays one. That's the one that we were at off of 21 there, heading towards Omro.
Okay.
Pretty neat place. I actually didn't know it existed until filming last weekend. It's funny how those things work, right?
Right.
Because we get customers or guests that come in here, like, I've lived here all my entire life in Oshkosh, and I never knew you were here. Or, it's like, how do we connect with you? How do we get the word out to you, And,
I just, I was asked, I said to myself, do you have so many beautiful buildings and things here that I said, do people really, they take it for granted? They just walk by it every day? And I would walk by it every day and just stop for a second and stare at it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I recently did, and I've learned this over time, is that I went to college, and I recently went back there, and I looked at, I was just walking around the campus, and I stopped at this doorway that had all this stone carvings over the doorway, and I stopped and I looked at it, and I said, I must have walked by this building 1,000 times or 10,000 times, and I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, my mind was preoccupied with something else.
Yeah. Speaking of, like, every once in a while we'll see some people, stopping and looking at the front of our building,
Amazing building.
Thank you. We love it. And other times, too, we'll see people out with, like, maybe like a sheet of paper. So they're maybe doing like a scavenger hunt. But it's cool to be included in those types of things because it's highlighting, a piece of, gorgeous history here in town, and to be a part of that is pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, on the side of your building, I think is a really cool piece of, vanishing artwork. I mean, you have, an advertisement on the side of the building that was painted, and it was probably hand painted. And, it was big. It's as big as the building. It's classic.
I think I heard a story that I think people either forgot about that painting or that advertisement before, because there used to be a building that was just right up next to this one.
Oh, okay.
As I think a lot of buildings were before, when they were just adding on. And then when they, blasted that other building, like all of a sudden this ghost mural, pops up and it's like, oh, hey.
It's magnificent. So yeah, I look at that and say, it's part of the culture and community here. And
yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you have several of them. I can't name all the buildings, but there's a building by the Webster building. It's around the corner. It has a mural, but they put a window in the middle of it.
Oh, sure.
And so, but it's still pretty cool for me.
Yeah. That's one of the newer things that we've been trying to incorporate, especially here in the downtown area. That was the mini mural project that took place a year or two ago, and I think they want to continue to do that. And I think the city's a little bit more open to getting larger installments as well, like the one that's just here over by the New Moon. You saw that?
Right.
Did you see that one?
Yeah,
that's pretty neat, right?
Yeah, and that just expresses the community and the artistry and the diversity, and it's inclusive. It appreciates the arts. It's there's so much about the arts community too that is just really welcoming and enjoying. And it makes the community a better community to live in. Yeah, right.
For sure. I think we should have had you come in right before the weekend, man. There was a lot of cool stuff going on. But next time we'll plan it around, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like our bid manager, Jessica, she did a really nice job putting together First Fridays, and it's only been growing. And they just had jazz in the square during that time too. And then we had some jazz going on in here, and lots of other places had some different things going on, showcasing art and music, different experiences and stuff, So there was a vodka tasting over at the Venture Project, and that's cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure not a huge amount of people live in the downtown area, but if it brings people to downtown, and and everybody has their own interests, and, it's just fun. It's just fun to be a part of the community.
We're finding that the more we look into it, that the demand for people that want to live downtown or in the central city is like really high. Like, I think that's another cool thing about where the co-op is going to be, is that those units, I think there's a waiting list now, but the same developers are going to be coming up with at least two more buildings there. So
is it like 150 units? Is that what it was?
I don't know the number, but that sounds right. It seems like it, right, for the size of that building.
Yeah, and I just said, oh my, how great is that?
Yeah.
If you were, think about it, if you were a college student and the university's just down the road, and you could live above a cooperative grocery store.
You're like steps away also from the Riverwalk, and
I mean, it's like, how great is that?
Yeah, it's gonna be super cool, especially it'll be super cool. It is super cool now, but it's gonna be even better, as time goes on, once more of those things come together, So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think Oshkosh is just hitting its stride now, and I think the co-op is going to be a big part of that. I think you start adding these amenities, and I think you're gonna step out of a shadow here soon, and you're not going to be the little sister of Milwaukee or something.
Sure.
It's just you're gonna have your own identity, and people are going to want to be here because it's Oshkosh.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is that a good size to start off with in terms of what we're doing here in town?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people simpler's better when to start. You have the capacity to grow there. You have the capacity to take over some other space. I think you got the ability to grow and move up, and And, and I think it also ensures there's, some co-ops do fail, but they fail because they try to do too much.
Sure.
And so, I think you're at the right size, the right kind of breakdown between produce and prepared foods and grocery. And I think, and the commitment and the work that everybody's put in, like I said, with your new prepared foods manager, I said, I asked him, I said, when was the last time you took a job and they provided you with a foundation of all the things that you were going to need to do? They brought consultants in, and they invested this kind of time and money into you.
Yeah.
And he said, never. I said, so that's the beauty of working at co-ops. Co-ops do that.
Yeah.
And they want to give you the tools. They invest in you because they want you to stay.
Yeah. Let me find that. I found that too, just being part of all these different committees. Crystal's been a huge help for us. She's at the
Menominee.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just, like we're doing now, like we're talking to other co-ops, and co-ops are usually pretty open. Well, they are open. It's
one of the
just sharing information, like if there are any questions about anything, right?
Yeah, that's one of the cooperative principles is being cooperative and sharing. So, and in the co-op world, the co-op slang, that's called P6 in it.
Nice.
Because it's the sixth principle. And even before, I've shared most of a lot of different policies and formats and templates that we use at Hunger Mountain.
Yeah.
With Oshkosh, because why recreate the wheel?
Yeah.
It might not all apply, but we already have it. We already did it.
Yep.
Pricing and strategic purchasing gave you our documents for that. You don't need. You can take what you want out of it and redesign it yourself. But why sit down and take away from other resources that you don't need to do?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So what else? What other your first impressions here, like coming into town? What else? What is it that you look for when you're exploring a new city or a town for the first time?
Well, the one thing that I always say to myself, I've lived in a lot of different places, and before co-ops, I managed hotels for 35 years, so I got transferred around the country a lot.
Yeah.
So my first impression goes to, is this a community that I would like to live in? And driving on some of these streets to come here, the homes are well maintained. They're they're the small ranches and things like that, and nice neighborhoods. And I say, yeah, this is really quaint. I really like this. And then and on the outskirts of town, you had all the big strip malls, but in town you didn't have them.
Yeah.
At least I haven't found them.
Yeah.
So I say, this is really nice. They've kind of protected the downtown area, which I find amazingly practical and good. And then I haven't seen water towers since I was growing up.
Really? Okay.
We had water towers where I lived when I was growing up, but we don't have them in Vermont.
Okay.
So I haven't seen a water tower in years and years and years, and it brought me back to my youth.
Yeah.
Which was really, it had a warm and fuzzy feeling when I drove into town, and I saw, and like one of the photographs I took, I sent it to Liz, by the way.
Yeah.
I took a picture of the co-op with the Oshkosh water tower right behind it.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's one of those ones I'll keep for a long time.
Yeah.
So I look at this and say, love the downtown, love the small community feel to it. And I haven't been to the university yet, but it's a university town. So I think it has all the components that will really set the stage for this. And so, I think it's a little flatter than what I'm used to, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
Good. Yeah, we pretend at times that the clouds are our mountains, but it's not the same.
Yeah, but it's like you have your own charm though too. You have a lot more water than what I'm used to. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, if you're a water person, this would be a great place.
Yeah. So, in relation to where you live in Vermont, like how far away are you from, like the ocean? I guess.
Oh, so we're a landlocked state.
Okay.
So the only kind of water we have is about 35 miles away. We have Lake Champlain, which is beautiful.
Okay. I've heard of that place.
Yeah, it's not a great lake, but it's probably the next thing down from it.
Okay.
It goes from Ticonderoga, New York, all the way up to Montreal.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
And it's connected. It doesn't all go all the way to Montreal, but close, and it's connected by the Hudson River that flows all the way down to New York City.
Okay.
So it was the major thoroughfare before automobiles and highways.
Yeah.
It was, you could go from New York all the way up to Montreal.
That's cool. Are there any river cruises or anything like that?
They have actually, one of the things when we talk about hospitality and weddings, they literally have a boat that does wedding cruises on the lake.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so you can get married on the boat, and then it's all set up to cater. It's got a dining room, it's got a bar and dancing, and
Yeah.
so it's pretty cool.
That's neat. How big are those? Like, how many people do you think you can
You can
safely fit on board?
easily over 100.
Okay.
Easily, yeah.
That's a good party then.
Yeah, on one side of the lake is the Adirondacks, so you're looking at New York State and the Adirondacks, which are beautiful mountains, and then if you look over to Vermont, you're looking at the Green Mountains, which aren't as high as the Adirondacks, but you get water on two ends and mountains on two ends.
Yeah. Well, shoot, maybe we'll have to plan a visit and.
I could return the favor. It would be great to show you around. And, Wisconsin's got some great beers, but Vermont's got some great beers too.
We should do that next time. Like you're in town or we're there, we'll sit down with some beers and see. We'll have a little beer challenge.
Yeah, we have, we do, anybody that usually comes to visit me, I take them to all the big Heady Topper, Lawson's, Hill Farmstead.
Okay.
I mean, big name, really well-renowned breweries.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, my whole thing with East Coast beers I'm not too familiar with, but I guess the only one I can think of right now is Yingling.
Yeah,
but,
that's a Pennsylvania beer.
This is a staple, right? East Coast staple.
It's actually the oldest brewery in the country. So.
And we see plenty of that down in Florida whenever we go visit. So.
We don't sell that in Vermont. I'm surprised, but
really?
Okay. You can't get. But my wife's from Pennsylvania, so
gotcha.
I'm familiar with it. So when you go visit her family,
you
do that. And my favorite Pennsylvania beer is I love Rolling Rock, but I love the little ponies, the 7 ounces.
Yeah,
because they never get warm.
Yeah, because you're just down in them.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. I've had a great visit here. It's been very productive. And,
good.
And the co-op's going to be beautiful. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah. So you said you stopped over at Rubiel the other night?
Yep. That was great. We had lunch there. Tonight we're going to go to Gardenia's, is right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Nobody knows. But we hear Gardenias. I call it Gardenias. I think Adam calls it Gardenias. Yeah. That's a good one to ask him. Yeah. And I think it's like a running joke too, because then, people call Manilas or something. Spell it with 2 L's.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's isn't that part of the challenge where, when I look at it, when I turned the corner I get up, I was walking around town at 5:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Photographing, and I turned the corner and I immediately saw your logo and the building. I said, "Oh, this is Marlo's place."
Good.
And it was really obvious to me. And I, one of the things that we talked about earlier was having a concept and a vision that when somebody looks at your restaurant, they automatically know the type of food you're going to serve. Mm-hmm. And yours is very obvious. I mean, Gordinia's, I'm sure they have great food, but until I walk in the door, I really wouldn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it's not a slight on them or Adam or anybody, but it doesn't tell me anything.
Yep. Well, coming up soon, right? Just a couple more hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time's flying.
Yeah, it's going really fast.
Yeah. And you're here through tomorrow?
Tomorrow night, yeah.
And you take off on Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I leave Milwaukee around 9 a.m., so it'll be a long day for me.
Okay.
Vermont's hard to get to.
Yeah. Well, so Milwaukee to
O'Hare.
Oh, okay.
And then...
and really? Milwaukee to O'Hare?
Yeah, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You sit on the runway.
You get up and get down.
Yeah, by the time you get on the plane, it takes longer for the plane to take off and taxi and to fly to O'Hare.
Okay.
And then you have a big air show coming up too, right?
Yeah, end of July. It's finally coming back. I've heard a couple different things that they're going to be taking like different precautions and doing things a little differently, limiting some of the seating for the larger banquets and stuff they had, understandably so. So that could be an interesting thing for the town, and seeing if it's going to return to anything like it was before, where people were just making a mad dash into town to get a 2-hour wait. It's like, oh, I got my name on a list. I'm in. See you in 2 hours.
Okay.
But no, we're excited to get that back, and along with other things and stuff here in town. And just Waterfest is coming up here pretty quick. That's a concert series that we have down there by the river at the Leach Amphitheater. Okay. And I don't know how many concerts they were able to book, but I mean, it's even if they had one, that's still one more than we had last year. So yeah, I think everyone's just itching just to get something going again, and it's getting there. Yeah. And then I think with the changes and so recommendations and stuff by the CDC and people's comfort level too is also another big help, So yeah,
you can feel it. Everybody's ready.
Yep. Right? It's unreal just to think of all the things that we've had to go through, this last year and a half. I mean, it's not over, but we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah, and I think in the hospitality business, there's a resiliency that this business, has, and people pivot, and those that can pivot quickly and can be creative, they make lemonade out of lemons, and I can see that happening here in Oshkosh.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that was one thing too. Like right around the shutdown when we weren't able to have our dining room open anymore, I asked the serving staff right away. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to just start driving and taking orders on the phone and running stuff out to curbside and stuff? And they're like, yeah, no hesitation. Like, let's do this. It's kind of like just life in general, right?
Yeah.
You take what comes at you and you adapt and you change, you move, you do what needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a curbside program at Hunger Mountain until the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And as of this past April, we had already done $1 million in curbside sales.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing about that whole story is that our IT person said a year before we even had a pandemic, he goes, doing a curbside program would be so hard. We should never do that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you rip the Band-Aid off and you say, we're gonna figure it out, right?
Yep. You never know until you try.
Right.
And I've heard people say, fail fast. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if it's not going to work, then you readjust. Yeah. Or decide, okay, it really didn't work.
I like that saying, fail fast. Yeah. But you're just going to get up and do something else. Right?
Yep. So. Awesome. So, tell me, have you had a taste of Filipino food before you got here?
I actually can't say that I have.
No? Okay.
I was telling you that I have a classmate from college who was Filipino, and he became a world-class chef.
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever made me any Filipino food. And the food that you served me today, Marlo, I could eat that almost every day.
Nice.
And it had the, when I look at things, it's smell, it's visual, it's texture, and taste.
Yeah.
And you hit the umami mark for me.
Nice. Good.
It was perfect.
Excellent.
And I'll go off script here and say that if you listen to this, please come to Marlo's restaurant, because it'll be an experience you can't get many places.
I appreciate it, man.
It's all true. So,
we were sitting around having a little lunch meeting, and they're asking, well, what do you order, or what would you recommend? And man, lately, and almost all the time, like the Manila Rice Bowl comes up.
And it's fabulous. I mean, I'm thinking that I can adapt that to my cooking style at home, because I can put a lot of things in there, but I could go out and get a nice pork butt. I could roast it and pull it, and then add some rice and spices, and it probably won't be half as good as yours, but I love to do breakfast bowls, and it's a perfect complement for that, and unfortunately, if my wife ever hears this, I'll apologize right now. Sorry, Roberta, I haven't been home all week to cook for you. She complained when I was getting on the plane. She goes, damn, I got to cook for myself all week.
Well, next time you got to prep some stuff for her, right?
Yeah, either that or I just need to bring her. I tried to bring her to Oshkosh with me, but she's in the event planning business. And weddings, so they're starting to pick up again. So
definitely got to make up for.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question of you. So
sure.
We had lunch, and it's but I also know that food is a very social thing, and it's always it brings people together, it brings communities together. And I know when I went to the Far East and went to China, they have very specific rules around dining and and where somebody sits and all those kinds of. But they have this little drink called gaiyang, and it's really, really potent alcohol, and they serve it in these little cups. And at a dinner, you would the host makes a toast, and then everybody that's sitting around that table has to toast the host too.
Oh, okay.
So it just becomes this circle where you end up having way too much of gaiyang.
Oh, sure.
So is there an alcohol? Yeah, is there an alcohol that's for celebrations and that you would serve with the food that you prepared me tonight?
I wouldn't say like a specific type of alcohol or a drink, but I mean, sisig in general is a great thing to have while you're hanging out with friends drinking, That's one thing that you'll find if you're ever out at the bars and stuff, that sit around a table and you'll just order food while you drink. And I think that's a brilliant way to go about it, because you're having a good time, you're drinking, you're enjoying the food, and you're kind of just maintaining like a nice, good feeling at the time,
Yeah. And I think that's what food does for everybody. If you think about food as a general rule, every good celebration, even bad celebration, funerals, there's always a food component to it.
Yes. We're
always having food. And I think that a lot of times food is probably the biggest part of that memory, because it's the glue.
Yeah.
It's the glue for that, and it's the glue for almost everything.
Yep. Jeff Goldblum?
Yes.
He, I can't remember the name of his series, but it was on Disney Plus. But he did a segment on ice cream, and all that kind of stuff. And he was on a ship with a whole bunch of sailors, and they were doing some kind of experiment, when they were tasting some ice cream, and they're like, what does that remind you of? And they just, flash. They closed their eyes and everything, and they were just reminiscing, and this brings me back when I was like 4 or 5 years old with my parents, or with my brother or sister, and just good memories.
Yeah, I mean, I think food does that. It does it for me.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time I had a Hebrew National hot dog.
Okay.
Grilled. They sliced it and they grilled it on a flat top. And, man, it was the best tasting hot dog I've ever had. I remember, eating breadfruit down in Jamaica for the first time.
Yep.
I can feel, when I think about it, not only can I taste it, I can feel the heat, from being in Jamaica. It brings me right back to that place. And food and music and friends usually are the three things for me that do that.
Yeah. No, we need to get you here on a weekend because we got all that here right for you.
Okay, I'm in. I'm definitely coming back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Excellent. Well, I'm really glad that our paths crossed with each other, because that was another thing that was really cool about just working with the co-op in general, like just meeting and just reconnecting with people too. So
yeah, food community is a great community.
Yeah.
I've always loved it, and I'm very thankful. Thank you, Marlo, for this opportunity. It's been great.
Yeah, we'll do it again next time you come visit. Yeah, sounds good.
Cheers. Thanks.
Right on.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this episode with Kevin O'Donnell from Seven Roots, and be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Did I say YouTube already? No. On our website, thebargapodcast.com, and we'll have all these episodes and more posted on there. So
great.
yeah,
Thanks.
Thanks again, and
Appreciate
we'll catch you on the next episode.
Super.